You never know with technology. Maybe just like one more minute and we will get going. I love when there's a bunch of people on here. Oh. All right. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us on this Family First Wednesday with Montana Care Network Family Division. My name is Kayla and I'm a family care supporter here in Billings. I offer family care support at the Children's Clinic. I have a child with autism and I have my own behavioral health diagnoses. And today we are joined by Tiffany Costa. Beth and I had the privilege of sitting next to her at the My Transitions conference. And she is here with Montana State University with the WIPA program. So I will let her kind of introduce her position and what she does. And you can have the floor, Tiffany.
Yay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Excited to be here. My name is Tiffany Costa, and I work for Montana State University Billings, the Work Incentives Planning and Assistance Program. The department I work for is the Montana Center for Inclusive Education. And so, kind of our mission is to help people with services. And so I'm going to kind of go into what we do. And I've been doing this work now 15 plus years. I'm the project director and we've expanded our team. So we have counselors located in Montana, Idaho, North Dakota, and South Dakota. So we serve a service area, and we're on federal grant funding to do that. So just going to kind of jump into explaining about that service, and we should have time to answer questions as well. And so here we go. So you're probably wondering, WIPA, what is WIPA? So it stands for Work Incentives Planning and Assistance, provides individualized, in-depth, employment-focused benefits counseling, work incentives planning in all 50 states and U.S. territories. So wherever a person moves, they can access their WIPA program in their state. And, doing this counseling for so long, I've had people move back and forth from different states. Example, I had a gal move to Alaska and I was able to give her WIPA contact information when she moved there, and then she moved back. And so we connected up again. So we provide long-term services as well. This program is funded by Social Security Administration. It's a critical component of national effort to improve employment outcomes for Social Security disability beneficiaries. And just to elaborate on that, if you're working with somebody that's on Social Security disability, sometimes they get attorneys that'll say, you can't work and be on benefits. Or somebody that's a friend might say that, a family member, and that's incorrect. We're here to provide that counseling to those individuals. One of the things keep in mind is your local Social Security offices in your state. They don't have the same capacity or training to provide in-depth answers. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but that's what's going on in those local field offices. They can answer questions generally, but not thoroughly. So a little bit of background about WIPA. It was created part of the Ticket to Work Incentives Improvement Act of 1999. And that includes a lot of people. Ticket to Work is not just the WIPA program, it's also Voc Rehab and employment networks. People can call a hotline now and ask questions if they want to get some answers right away, which is really fantastic. They used to not have that as well, but now they do. Social Security has cooperative agreements with 83 community agencies to provide these services. And WIPA projects are staffed and trained by certified community work incentive coordinators. To date, WIPA projects have served over 750,000 individuals. So we have to track our data and that kind of stuff. So that's how they know that the service is needed. WIPA is all about work. Their mission is to promote employment and financial independence for beneficiaries of the Social Security disability programs. And when we think about Social Security disability programs, those are people on SSI, supplemental security income. Those are people on SSDI, Social Security disability insurance. The other category would be childhood disability benefits, which is CDB. Sometimes they call it disabled adult child benefits, DAC. And then we also have disabled widow individuals. So the goals is to increase the number of Social Security disability beneficiaries who engaged in paid employment or self-employment. And you'd be surprised in Montana, you know, there's a lot of people that launch their own businesses, become their own boss because of their health issues. So some people are successful that way too, which it's really cool to see what their business plan is and how successful they are with their goals in that. Support beneficiaries of maintaining paid employment or self-employment over time. So that's where we provide that ongoing service for a long length of time. We provide accurate and timely work incentives, planning and assistance service that enable beneficiaries to increase their earnings capacity over time, maximize the financial benefit of working. So for example, you know, we might be counseling somebody, they come to, you know, we get the referral from the helpline and this person's like really nervous about working. And so they say, oh, well, I just want to work really part-time. But once they start understanding the different work incentives they have with Social Security, they might move from part-time to full-time. So we do a lot of counseling back and forth so they can understand the impacts of, you know, that switch. And it's really a cool switch when person calls you and says, I'm taking full-time work. Yay. We want that for them. So we're here to help them understand what that means for reporting and how it all works. Reduce beneficiaries dependent on the disability benefits and other income support programs. We increase the financial independence and stability of beneficiaries through self-sustaining employment, asset development, and improved management of fiscal resources. So here are some common myths about WIPA. It's intended to force beneficiaries off disability, incorrect. Protects beneficiaries from ever losing benefits due to work. Helps beneficiaries maximize benefits, performs all wage reporting and benefit management for beneficiaries, and we're not a representative payee service. Some important facts about WIPA services: they're employment focused. You know, the counselors do not report beneficiary information to Social Security or manage benefits. We teach beneficiaries how to communicate effectively with Social Security and provide support to help beneficiaries manage their benefits independently. And what I have to say about that, anytime a person gets a Social Security letter and form they have to fill out, they kind of go into distress. A lot of folks end up crying, to be honest. They're like, what do I do? They're going to kick me off. And, you know, language in Social Security letters are kind of harsh. You know, it'll say you're going to lose your benefits when that isn't the case, but they have to cover everybody they're sending that letter to. So for their legal purposes, their letters could be very scary to the individuals that receive them. And then, you know, completing the paperwork is a whole nother thing. And you guys probably work with folks that don't even like opening their mail because it came from Social Security. And so it's very important for them to open those because the deadlines to get that paperwork back, it's really quick. You know, they want it back now kind of thing. So just keep that in mind when you're working with folks that they might get letters from Social Securities that put them in distress. WIPA projects conduct most of their work using distant technology, it's very rare that a person comes in for an in-person visit. It's an option for them, but we do a lot of our business by phone. People still don't want to do virtual, because they don't want to they don't want people to look on them at camera, they just don't like that feeling. So we do a lot of distant technology by phone with folks, but they have options, which is great. More facts about WIPA. CWICs don't provide employment services or supports directly to beneficiaries. We help them decide what employment services they need to be successful in employment, and then connect beneficiaries with agencies that might meet those needs. So for example, we might get a referral of a client that's in a job, and then boom, we're with them, we do an intake, and we find out they're no longer working. So we would provide them referrals to, job service and or voc rehab to maybe have them help them figure out what their next employment goal is, them helping them get a job, because we're only explaining the benefits. I've had clients over the years saying, can you help me find my next job? And I'm like, no, but I can give you a name of a place that can. Social Security prohibits WIPA projects from engaging in certain activities. We may not assist with benefit applications, and we also can't represent beneficiaries in appeal processes. There are programs out there that can help them with the application process. That's just not something we do. We help people after they're receiving the benefits. So you're probably wondering, oh my God, what do we do? Well, how do these counselors help the beneficiaries? What we do is we're verifying all their benefits. We identify and connect with services or supports needed for them to overcome barriers to employment. Maybe transportation's an issue. We can help them figure out what transportation is offered in their town. We understand how paid employment will affect all state, federal, and local benefits. Even SNAP, we can look at that. Are you going to lose it? Or, housing, same thing. We identify, use, and manage Social Security work incentives. And Social Security publishes a book online. If you go to www.ssa.gov, they have a red book, and the red book says, if you're on SSI, these are the work incentives that you're entitled to. And if you're on SSDI, these are the work incentives too. And so what we try to do is we don't explain all the work incentives to people. We kind of pick where they're at and really get to explaining those incentives for them. We can also support beneficiaries with reporting wage information to Social Security. We're not going to do that ongoing. We might help them in the beginning, like, hey, I haven't reported my wages for 6 months. Let's get the wage stubs together. Let's get those to Social Security. Because, if you're on the SSI program, they put an estimate in the computer what they think you're going to make at a job, but they actually need the verification by the 10th of every month to put that information in, because the SSI check fluctuates. It usually goes down because of wage income, but when you add the wage income and the SSI check, they're making more by working than not working at all. We also analyze healthcare coverage options so beneficiaries can determine which options are best coverage and more affordable price, and we help resolve any benefit problems that they're having. Sometimes people's benefit problems, though, can go on for years, but we're hoping not, but I've seen that happen as well. So to be a CWIC, the qualifications are we have to undergo background checks, receive Social Security clearance from Social Security. That's quite the undertaking. Complete a rigorous initial training, 2-part assessment process, and have to get certified. And then every year, the CWICs have to complete ongoing training to maintain their certificate. We work with VCU's National Training and Data Center. They provide all of our trainings for us every year, which is fantastic. And then they're there to help new CWICs along too. You're probably wondering, we kind of already went through who's eligible, the groups, you have to be disabled per Social Security's definition, and you must be receiving Social Security benefits based on disability or blindness. Again, SSI, SSDI, childhood disability, disabled, widow benefits are all the categories. If you're on Social Security retirement, we don't help because there's a different earnings bracket for those folks. And a person must be at least the age of 14, but not full retirement age. Our priorities, while all eligible beneficiaries receive information on referral services, individualized services are typically reserved for beneficiaries who are closest to employment. So for example, if somebody calls the Social Security Ticket to Work helpline, they're going to assess, are you close to employment or not? If you're close to employment, they're going to send the referral over to us. And then we're going to reach out to that person right away to get an intake set up and start helping them answer any questions they have about working. So here are our priority groups, just to give you an idea what that looks like. Individuals who are currently working or engaging in self-employment and have both a need and interest in receiving individual work incentives, planning and assistance services. Group 2 is beneficiaries who are actively pursuing employment or self-employment, who have an interest in receiving work-related counseling. These are beneficiaries with clear employment goals who are conducting an active, regular job search. So these folks probably already working with folk rehab and have an idea of where they're going with their work. Social Security prioritizes transition age youth interested in work with the WIPA program. And so we work with all transition age youth from the ages of 14 to 25, and they don't have to have a clear work goal. They'll just get services right away because there's a lot of things that happen with transition age youth Social Security benefits. Okay. And so families need to be real clear that their person might be on SSI, then their child starts working. Pretty soon, kabam, they're on SSDI because they earned their work credits, or maybe their parent is already retired and their kiddo's receiving childhood disability benefits off their parent's record. There's a lot of things that we have to look at and discuss. And to be honest with you, sometimes people that help them get into jobs might mislead them with the benefit they have and what they can make working. So that I've had to undo a lot of explaining to people because they would come in knowing some different information that wasn't even applicable to their situation because that wasn't the Social Security check they were receiving. So just letting you know that happens out there. Even Social Security might give them the wrong information as well. So you're probably wondering how you can make referrals to the WIPA program. We ask anybody meeting that criteria to first call the Ticket to Work helpline. They're open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They're ready to help. These folks have been through training too, so they're able to even answer questions people might have. But literally, they're trying to get the referrals to the WIPA programs so we can start providing that counseling service. And very important referral tip, be sure to refer eligible beneficiaries, because if they don't get referred to the helpline, then they could get in a job and then pretty soon they could be in overpayment because they don't understand how they should report their wage income. And so we don't want people to get in overpayment because then it's hard to encourage that person to go to work again, right? Because why should I go to work? Oh, now I'm in an overpayment. So if we can start with them in the beginning, it's best to just provide that service. And maybe they're not work ready, but maybe 6 months from now they are, or, we're here to help. So, help educate beneficiaries about WIPA services so they know what to expect When in doubt, just refer to that helpline. We already talked about when that is open. So sharing good news about work and benefits. Many fears are based on incorrect information. Help spread the truth about how employment affects Social Security disability benefits and associated medical insurance. So I have to tell you, the biggest thing for folks getting to work, it's not losing the cash benefit, it's losing the health care benefit. And there's huge incentives to work. A person on SSI receiving Medicaid, they can make over $44,000 a year and still keep full Medicaid. They're probably not getting a cash check, but they're still getting their Medicaid, and that's huge, especially if their medication's really high cost. Paid employment and Social Security disability benefits don't have to be mutually exclusive. You know, it's even possible to work full-time and keep Medicaid and Medicare in almost every case, and we're here to help them understand that. I've even had people go to work full-time and then stop their Medicare benefits because they had health insurance through their employer, because that was the route they wanted to take. Well, then they lost their job and they were needing their Medicare back. And so I had to support them and helping them how do I get these turned back on? Who do I call? How do I even ask that question? Because people, when they call, sometimes their words don't come out right. So, we're here to help them like write down that question they're going to ask when they did get through the phone call line. And I have to say, our local Social Security offices in our state all have 800 numbers. A person can call their local office and they should be able to talk to somebody Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And one way to look that up, if you're not sure the phone number of the field office, you can go to www.ssa.gov again. And if you get to the main page, you scroll down and you're looking for the office locator. And when you find the office locator, you'll put in the zip code of where that person lives, and there'll be a face sheet that'll pop up. So for example, maybe they're in Missoula. It'll give you the Missoula's address, fax number, and phone number so they can contact them. Okay. If they call the national toll-free line, they're going to be on hold for a long time. And it's best if you work with your local Social Security office instead of the national toll-free line. The other thing, it's possible to come out ahead financially if benefits are reduced or ceased. It's also possible to get benefits back if lost due to employment. So an example of that would be, let's say a person on SSI went to work, okay? And because they're working, their SSI cash check stops because they're making good money, but their health insurance is still going. So the date Social Security says, oh, we're terminating your cash benefit, that person still has a 5-year window, 5 years, to request their benefits be turned back on if their job thing falls apart, okay? And people knowing that, that's such a great security, safety net to say, I can try this job, and if in 5 years I can't do it, I can get back on the benefit. And Social Security, of course, has already determined their eligibility, right? What their disability is. Their hope is that they can get back to work at whatever level they can do, people get fearful of that, and it's okay. And it's okay if it doesn't work out. Sometimes people feel defeated because they got in a job being hopeful it's going to work out and then it fell apart. But that just means they have to restructure and figure out the next career path is all. So my contact information is listed here. I can definitely get this PowerPoint emailed out so the group can have it as well. But now we're at the fun part. We're open for questions and answers if people have some.
Tiffany,
And
I
no,
had a question.
yeah.
Hi, I'm Carrie Tarter. I'm wondering when you said talked about getting in, it's better to get in touch with the local agency, but then before that we were talking about calling the ticket helpline. So like when would be a case where the local agency would be preferable to call over the ticket helpline?
Well, actually, a person should call both lines. Okay.
Okay.
If you're working with a client, for example, that has a job, okay, if they have a job, they should always call their local social security office to say, I got a job, you know, and that might be a rep payee, you know, the family member, you know, maybe their mom's a rep payee and that person can call on their behalf, and they should call their local office every time they start or stop work, just because their benefits are impacted, right? So they might be getting a reduced SSI, and to get that SSI back to the full amount, if they stop working, they would need to call to do that. And so I think what I was trying to get at there was that you guys have a resource to find their local social security office phone number for them by going to that website, Social Security's website. Because it's real helpful for them to have that 800 number. Yeah.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah. And we, you know, if they're enrolled in our program, we're going to give them that information. One of the cool things is we'll get a referral from the helpline, and then our CWICs, you know, they'll reach out to them in the first 2 to 3 days to say, hey, let's get together and get an intake. And then, you know, and I'm sure you guys working in the field too, you know that sometimes lives get all crazy, so they don't call you back right away. It just happens. But we're here to help them when they're ready. We also do mail out, when we get that referral, we mail out an introduction letter. And in that letter, we're asking them to complete a Social Security release form. In order for us to verify their benefits, we need them to sign that so we can get a accurate report and give them the right information moving forward with working. And our local Social Security offices work really well with us in trying to get us that information back within a week. You know, some states will say, oh my God, it takes a month. I said, I hope not. I've been to a lot of the offices in Montana. I think I've been to all of them actually, except for the little ones, and presented to the staff in person and gave them prizes, you know, so I could say, hey, we need to work together here. And they know. I'll call, they'll answer a lot of my questions for me. So on cases and get things straightened out for folks.
Tiffany, it looks like there's a question in the chat. So it said, I've heard WIPA agencies have recently changed their priorities and are now only accepting folks who have a job offer or currently working. Is this true for Montana as well, or can folks searching the job market be connected to you still?
You know, that is true. The priorities have changed. They haven't updated the PowerPoint, and the PowerPoint that I went through today had to be approved by Social Security, so they're behind on updating those priorities. And but I do want to let you know that our office too, if somebody's working with voc rehab, we have another contract where the voc rehab counselors are able to internally send us referrals for those people that aren't in the work ready category. So we, as a state, are covering the whole categories. If that makes sense. It's just we have a remote worker in Butte, and she just specifically does voc rehab client referrals, which is great because we've been kind of busy in that area, and we're still trying to figure out. We're getting better at the referral process with the voc rehab people because they have to send it to us, and so that system's getting better. There's always glitches when you start things, you know, and you're trying to work through that. And but we are covering our state very well. And like I said, I've been doing this work over 15 years, and so I still come across agencies that are like, I never heard of this program ever. So it's something that needs to be talked about, you know, on a yearly basis, just because there's turnover in people's jobs, and, you know, we want to best help people get connected to supports.
Eva, did that answer your question? Oh, perfect. She just said, great, thank you. Sorry.
I'm going to tell you a fun story. I'll tell you a fun client story. We do client stories too. We send client stories once a quarter to Social Security, was a success. So I'm just going to tell you about a client. I got her years ago. She was living in Deer Lodge, Montana. And you know, being in this job, it's been a great experience saying, oh my God, where's that little town in Montana? I never heard of it. So I literally have learned about towns everywhere. I was like, wow, this is way the heck over here. Anywho, she lived in Deer Lodge, Montana, and she called me up and we did counseling for 2 to 3 years. She was just on a part-time job track, you know. Then out of the blue, she called me up. She said, you know, remember when I said I wasn't ready to do full-time work? I found this fabulous job in Missoula and I want to go there. She was going to work for the VA, and she was going to do secretarial work, which was cool. And she was going to make good money, and she was going to go live with a former person she went to school with years ago. You know, it's just a fantastic story, and she got off benefits. You know, so that to me was just fantastic. Had she not had counseling, she would have been stuck. She would have been stuck not knowing that she could do full-time work, you know? So people can do it. And sometimes they do it and then they said, oh gosh, this isn't for me too. And they have to go back to part-time. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's so exciting to see people in that. Another story, I'll tell you about a young man I worked with, and oh my goodness, we've done lots of years of counseling. I feel like he's been with me for at least 10 years counseling, you know. But his mom was just going crazy. I think if she could have pulled out her hair at times, she would have. She says, oh my God. She called me every time Kyle had a job change. You know, Kyle had another job change. I said, whoa, my goodness, this kid, he can find lots of jobs. So keeping him was a whole nother thing because of his mental health disabilities, right? He would get involved in the drama at work, get in the wrong groups and get into more trouble than he needed, not knowing the consequences very well because he just was trying to have friends. Anywho, he's successful now too. He was somebody that I just did part-time counseling with. His mom was a rep payee. They fought over money all the time. I suggested that she switch rep payees. He went to a community organization rep payee for a while. That didn't work out. And dad, in the beginning, probably should have always been the rep payee, right? He's the accountant in the family. But anywho, he's the rep payee now. And Kyle is working full time off benefits as well. So, lots of jobs later. I wouldn't even be able to count how many jobs he jumped around until he was able to find that final job. But I think a lot of it was maturity to him getting older and being able to do it. But he's always had that work goal, you know. It's fun to work with these people because they are just happy to have you to call real quick when things fall apart or fall together.
It looks like Erin has a question as well. Or maybe a
Yay.
statement. I don't know.
Well, you never know, right? I don't really know how to word this, but I was talking with SSI recently, and they said that the income limit or the like your savings, not your savings, but I don't know the right word for it, but the amount of money that you have on you personally or your assets can't go over a certain amount, and that hasn't been updated in a really long time. And maybe you already covered this because I was a bit late getting on, but so for like our situation, my husband's unemployed right now on job attached unemployment. So he was supposed to be getting unemployment, but he keeps getting denied for like 3 months in a row now. So we're 2 months behind on our mortgage. My son was on SSI, and when I called them to like reopen his case because we had enough income for that to be taken away, they said that because my husband also has a vehicle, we can't get that benefit because it's over the $3,000 limit. So is there in the near future any thought process of them re-looking at those limits since our housing and everything has gone up so much?
So, good news, yay. You know, I can't remember if it's been 35 or 45 years. SSI's resource limits, $2,000 for an individual, 3,000 for a couple. And the other issue is if you have a minor child in your house that qualifies for SSI and they're under 18, it's hard, right? Because they're going to look at parents' resources. They do deeming, they look at resources, but you know, in Montana, and nationally, we have ABLE accounts. So Montana ABLE, if you look it up, ABLE, Montana ABLE, people can set aside disability related expense money in there. Okay. And guess what? Social Security does not count it as a resource, it's exempt. And a person can deposit, I'm gonna just give you a roundabout figure. I mean, I know it's more than 16,000 a year. They can deposit that much. And family members can contribute money to those accounts as well. So my favorite question, people would call me, oh my God, so-and-so just passed away. I'm getting a huge inheritance. Well, dude, you better get a Montana ABLE account so you can dump the money in there. That way you can use it when you need it. You can use it for housing, you can use it for job coaching, you can use it for transportation, you can use it for a lot of things. So it's fantastic that we have these. The unfortunate thing about ABLE accounts, they're trying to raise the age. I think it's 26 right now, but Congress is looking at changing the age to 46, I believe. And back to the SSI resource limits, Congress is looking at changing individuals to 10,000 because they realize, and I don't know why it's taken them this many years to realize that you're just putting people in poverty, right? If you're saying you can only have 2,000 in your bank, what happens is people on the benefits don't think about this, but when Social Security makes deposits of their money, they also do checks of your bank account. Okay. And so they can see, I just had a case like this recently, they can see that you're over resources, but that doesn't mean you can't appeal the letter they sent to you. You can say, hey, when you looked at it, yes, but I didn't pay my bills yet, or I was going to put my money in my ABLE, you know, those things. So sometimes Social Security will work with you to say, oh, okay, we see you're not over resources now, you know. But it just comes down to people just communicating. Sometimes we want to hear a better answer and sometimes we don't get the right one. But they are looking at changing it. I don't know when that will happen, but I think it's soon. There's people advocating.
So you had the number for individuals might go up to 10,000. Is there one for couples?
I'm
Because
trying
like
to
for us, it's not our income because right now we are like looking at losing our house. So it's because he has a vehicle and I have a vehicle. And that $3,000 limit they put on you, I think his truck is probably worth 9. So they were like, well, you can sell your truck and then call us back. I was like, then where's he supposed to go if he gets like side jobs to try to
yeah.
keep up on things? And my vehicle is strictly for our son's medical stuff. We're always going to appointments. So I was like, that is an interesting way to solve this problem.
And where do you live, Erin? What town?
I'm in Kalispell.
Do they have a HRDC over there?
I don't know what that is, sorry.
Okay. It's just a program that might be able to help you with your guys' mortgage situation,
Not that I,
HRDC. Okay, I'll look it up here in a minute. So in April, it looks like 2022, Senator Brown and Portman introduced the SSI Savings Penalty Elimination Act. Okay, including only the Supplemental Security Income Restoration Act provisions to raise resource limits to 10,000 and 20,000. So the 10,000 would be an individual and the 20,000 would be married.
and that's like processing, or where's that at in its
It's processing.
goal?
Yeah. I mean,
That's
you
a
can
big jump.
just imagine the Speaker of the House was fired for a while and the Congress has had a mess. I hope they get things straightened out here and get business done because they're just holding programs and people service back. It's not good.
I mean, that would be a significant, like hugely significant change. So thank you for the information.
And back to the SSI program, they only allow people to have one house, one car. If you have more cars or vehicles, they're going to use that as a resource amount. And it's just amazing to me that a lot of people, and I know a lot of people have a vehicle that's broke down, but they'll still use that as a value, even if it's not operating.
So I just have a question. Does SSI exclude one of the cars? I know like with OPA, it excludes one car. Is that the same, Tiffany, with SSI?
Yeah, same thing. Yeah. I think trying to explain it, the federal rules and the state rules, when the federal rules say we're going to do it this way, and then your states can adopt it, that's what ends up happening in most of our states is they adopt the same suggestions. Do you know what I mean? But not always, because our state as a whole can decide, oh, the federal guidelines came out for this. What do we want to adopt for our state? So that's why we have our state legislature. So if you see anything wrong with our state legislature or problems with service programs, please reach out to your representatives so they can start getting bills and figuring this crap out, because there's a lot of things missing in our state government. It's ugly, especially mental health services. Frustrates me that, I don't know if it was 5 or 10 years ago now, the state was like, oh, we have to cut 10 or what's 20%. Each department was to cut 20% out of their budget. And you know what they did? They shut down job service offices around the state. And I'm telling you, Dillon, Montana got hit the hardest. They had their job service center shut. They had their OPA office shut. They had their mental health services shut. I'm like, what the heck? How are people supposed to get services? You can't expect in Montana everything. I know we moved to remote, but some people need that in person service delivery still. So it just was like, oh gosh. I have clients from Dillon, so I got to hear that those things were happening, and I was sad for them trying to be connected.
Tiffany, I have a quick question.
Yes.
You said that there are resources that can help somebody with their Social Security application or with an appeal. What are those?
Okay. So to help you through the application process, you would reach out to an independent living center in your area, service area. So in Billings, for example, LIFT, LIFTT, they have mentors and people to help them with that process. And they can also help with appeals, but if they're needing more help with appeals, they can also lean on Disability Rights Montana. They have a worker there, her name, I think she's still there, Eva, that their PABS program that helps with protecting individuals with disabilities. And you know what? Disability Rights Montana is just a great resource. You know, you should have them come and present to your group as well, because they also have the client advocacy program. And that program, if somebody's having trouble with voc rehab, their counselor, they can act as an advocate in the meeting to make sure services are better. And it's a great resource as well. And as well, I have clients that might have employment discrimination issues in their job. I've had clients win cases because they were treated differently in their jobs. I've had to refer those cases on. And sometimes I'll have a client saying, I don't want to report that. I'm like, dude, you should really report this, because that employer needs training. Like, they can't treat people. They shouldn't treat people differently at all, but it happens.
Mhm. Thanks.
I have a question just because I work with families. Um, when a referral, I know you said you guys can help with anyone that's 14 and older, is that correct? Did I read
Yes.
that? Okay. So when does the referral have to happen after 14? Like date of birth after? Okay. So
Yeah.
and
After
then
14, and they must be receiving Social Security benefits.
okay, perfect. So just
Very
start
important.
putting it kind of on their radar when
Yeah.
okay.
And the other thing that happens when a person's about ready to turn 18, this is a real important factor too. Social Security does a review to see if they're going to make the adult disability roles to move over. And so you might have some kiddos that are dependents receiving benefits off their parents' record because they're under 18, but that's not the same thing as being on Social Security disability yet. So people on childhood disability benefits, that really doesn't happen until you're 18. If you're under 18, you're just being paid dependent benefits off a parent's record. It does that kind of case doesn't come up very often, but you'll be happy that I mentioned it, because it might come up now.
No, thank you. That's perfect. Does anybody else have any questions? Make sure.
And the other thing I wanted to throw out there is, if the individual has a rep payee person, that doesn't mean they have to bring their loved one to the appointment. There's a reason why some people just can't sit here to go through that kind of information and be okay. I had a client on the autism spectrum that his mom made him come, right? He just got done with working. He was exhausted. And so all he did, and you know, I've known him for years, all he did was take a nap in my other chair until his mom was done asking all the questions. But I don't make people bring their people if they feel like it's not going to benefit them, because they're the ones that need to know the information. You know, rep payees are the ones that have to do the wage reporting if they're working. And so I just wanted you guys to know that, you know, unless the person wants to meet me, you know, then we're going to do it. But if it's too much for them, we don't make them participate in that part of the stuff. Well, fun, guys. I'm glad that you all jumped on and let me know how I can help. We're here
For
to
all
help.
that great, thank you for all that great information. And
Yes.
we can attach your contact info in our newsletter as well if anybody wants that information, or if anyone wants to email Beth or I. It's just Kayla@mtpeernetwork.org if you want that information. But thank you so much, Tiffany. We really appreciate it.
Oh, look, even Eva's on today with disability rights. I see her name. I don't know if she heard me talk about her organization.
All right. Well, we appreciate everyone joining us. If you guys want to get information on what the Families Division is doing, you can sign up to be a member on our website and our MontanaCareNetwork.org. You hit the family tab at the top and you can become a member for free. They'll send you a weekly newsletter with a lot of information about what we have upcoming and what we're doing, which is a lot lately. So yeah, but thank you guys for joining. We really appreciate it. We'll see you guys next month.